Welcome back again to another Unity lesson. Now in this lesson as you can see here, I've just opened a very fresh Unity scene, or in fact Unity project. It doesn't have anything except for the camera. And in fact there are no scenes, there are no assets at all, there are no other, if you look at the assets, for example, we import packages, there are none. Actually all of them are available for us. So basically I haven't imported any of the standard assets. I just created a fresh, clean, new project without even checking any of the boxes at the beginning of creating a new project. And the purpose of doing this is to show you as well how to approach creating your project in another way. Also, I wanted to show you the main purpose of this lesson is to show you how to write script in a little bit more or less organized way. So if you needed to enhance your game, or for example extend your application's capability later in time, it will be a whole lot easier for you to do that. Okay, so let's get started. Now as you can see here, I have my main camera standing right there. If I will go here and say create new terrain, and I'm creating a terrain here just as a point of reference. So I just, if you are making, for example, a space shooting game or anything that happens in space, you will not need the terrain anymore. You will just simply have a huge skybox with a lot of stars and you can move along. So let me put this camera a little bit down, and in fact I'm gonna start creating some sort of variations here in my terrain, and the terrain is in fact quite huge. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller here. So instead of 2000, I'm just gonna put here 1000 by 1000, and I'll leave the height as well as 600, and I'll set the resolution. And well, I could just raise the height a little bit on a couple of sides here. In fact, I'm gonna make the brush a little bit bigger, and create a hill here, a hill there, there, and there, for instance. And in fact I'm gonna make them as islands. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the assets, import game assets, and I'll grab the water basic and I import everything. So as you can see here, I got the new folder of the assets, and I will just simply create a daylight water because I'm gonna have a light and it will be happening during the daylight. So right now we have some sort of island-ish kind of layout, so I can push right there. So there you go. Okay. Now the standard assets folder has been created for us automatically, which is fine because the water actually goes inside the standard assets folder. This is my Unity. So here I'm gonna call this water race or whatever, terrain or terrain, and I will leave the main camera and I will call this my ocean or sea, although it doesn't behave like an ocean or a sea anyway, but I will leave it that way for now. And the terrain as well, I'm gonna call this water race terrain, and I'm gonna create a new folder, and I'm gonna push this terrain right inside. And in fact I'm gonna create a new folder as well. I'm gonna call it scenes, and I'm gonna save this scene. I hit Control S, by the way, and I'll call this level 1, and I'm gonna save it right there. So we have level 1. Okay. Now if I grab my main camera, which is currently underwater, I'll just push it up a little bit, and as you can see here, we can see the mountains back again. And in fact, I will not care for now about texturing the mountains or anything. What I will care about though is a little bit of lighting here. So I need to go into my game objects, create other, and since it's outside of the recording area, I just simply say directional light, and now I have a directional light in my scene, like so. And I will add one more skybox. So in order to add skybox, I have to go to my assets, import package, and I will go and import skyboxes. And I shall import everything. I mean, you could import specific ones, but I'm going to import everything for now. Actually, if you import the specific ones which you use, it will even minimize the size of your project. So I'm going to go ahead and go to edit, and I'm going to go for render settings. And I'm going for skybox material. And let me choose one here which satisfy more or less my actually I have to write in skybox, so just to limit ourselves with the sky. So dusk, yeah, that would be fine. Okay. And since our light source, I'm not gonna go here for accuracy because again I'm just I'm trying to put some environment here just for our scripting, so we can see what we are doing exactly. So I'm gonna grab my camera, which is my main camera. You can actually name it anything which you want, and it will work for just fine. And I will create a couple of empty game objects. So I'm gonna go here and create other, and I'll create a capsule. I'll rotate it over the x-axis by 90 degrees. And as you can see here, actually by -90, so make just this y-axis pointing up. And as you can see here, I'm just gonna make it in a way that I'm just prototyping here. So I'm not gonna make a whole-fledged ship or anything. I'm just gonna make it like a simple prototype of a ship here. And in fact, this is how you would work in teams. So for example, if you don't have to wait for the artist to give you the or the modeler or whoever is working with you, you don't have to wait for him until he finishes, or her until she finishes. What you need to do is just simply create some basic, you know, blocks or types, blocks or shapes, if you will, and apply the scripts to them. And once the model is done, you just simply can replace the model with this one, and it will work just fine. Alright, so let's get started. Now, if I would like to play this, I will see just while waiting for it to play, I see just the boat in front of me, and I see, of course, the water just moving around, and this is it. And I would love, actually, to move this boat. So, so what I'm gonna do here is, let me push this boat a little bit down, you know, and grab this camera and just rotate it just a bit, you know, like as if it is, you know, third person, you know, so it follows it in a bit better way, have a better angle. Okay, so let's make this boat move. Now, how can we do that? It's in fact very easy. However, right now we need some organization into our code. So for example, in this new folder, I create a new folder here. I'm gonna call this scripts. And inside the scripts folder, I'm gonna have my business logic. And I'm gonna have as well my behavior scripts. And inside this behavior scripts, I could even create another subfolder, which is going to be boat script or boat scripts. Inside my business logic here, I can create my player class. I'm going to create here, for example, well, I'm going to just leave it at player for now. And the boat scripts is in fact inside the behavior script, which is going to control the boat's movement. So I'm going to create a new C# script, and I'm going to call this move boat. Actually, I cannot name it that way, but anyway, it's too late right now. I have to rename it as well here. And if I double click on the C# script, it will load for me right now monodevelop, which is, oopsie, now I have to resize it. Hang on a sec. Just a second here. There you go. and right here you start blocking the code for moving the boat. So on update, I will just simply say transform dot translate, and right here for the translate you have to give up a vector. So here I'm gonna have input hang on a second, vector 3 dot forward times dot forward. By the way, it will give you a vector 3 of 001 as far as I remember, which is because you can create, because you can hang on a sec, forward is gonna be, which is gonna be this z-axis. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and get back to my script here. So vector 3 forward, and I'll multiply this by input dot get axes, and get axes is how can I say, right now if you say get axes instead of getting input with a specific key, right now you are mostly compatible with joysticks as well. So right now if I say, for example, with vertical axes, right now the arrow keys up and down and the W and S are going to be the vertical axes, times a factor here which I'm going to add right now, which is sailing speed, and times time dot delta time, and I've made this time dot delta time. I don't need this comment anyway. Oopsie. And I'll create here a public sailing speed, and you will see why it's public in a second. Public int sailing speed and semicolon. Do not put a get and set, and we'll see why in a second. And delta time here is taking the average timing of the frames, because this operation is executed for every frame, and if you would like to get a consistent experience along all the PCs or platforms you have. For example, you can have a slower PC, you can have a faster PC, and if you would like the movement to be the same for everyone, then you're gonna have to multiply your movement or any kind of animation by delta time, because you could happen to run this application on a faster PC, and you'll get the boat just moving blazingly fast like a rocket, and on a slower PC just moves like a turtle. So in order to get that experience, that makes it all the same for all PCs, the fast and the slow ones, you're gonna have to multiply all these parameters by the average speed. Now, the get axis is in fact, it ranges from 0 to 1 and 0 to -1. So 0 to -1 is for the backwards, which is the arrow down or the S key, and from 0 to 1 is for the W and the up arrow key. In case if you are not touching any of those keys, this evaluates to 0, and since we are multiplying all of these together, so anything multiplied by 0 is going to be 0. So let's give this a test. Now before we test it, we need to grab this boat, and in fact instead of caps, so I'm going to call it my boat, and I'm going to grab move boat and apply it on it. Now if you look here, I get the sailing speed equals to 0, and if I look at my Unity here, I had a public parameter here which makes it easily visible into my inspector. If you would like that not to be visible on the inspector, you just simply say private, and it will not be visible by the inspector. As you can see here, it's just 0. So I'm gonna make public back again. Man, okay, there you go. And I will put here, in fact, like something like 30. And let's get started. So I'm gonna Control S that and say and play it. And if I hit W, whoops, see, now it goes up and down actually. In fact, my forward, probably because I inverted the axes, so that's why it happened to be that way. Which is kind of fun actually. So it's more like a hovercraft. and it's a good game. Anyway, let's get back here. So let me see here my axes. In fact, let me check them out here. So oh yes, because the z-axis is pointing up, and I haven't looked at that. So how about this? I will take my x-axis, and instead of that, I will just simply rotate it to 0. And the scale, I'm gonna actually scale it into the z-axis by that number, and into the x-axis by 1, I think, or oh, actually by the y-axis by 1, and by the x-axis like this. Well, hang on a sec. Let me like squeeze this down. Hang on a sec. Let me make this 1 and 1 and 1. So the z-axis is the front, so I'm gonna squeeze this guy down a little bit, and let me just scale him up a little bit like so. Now it's more or less like a submarine. Anyway, and actually it will not get the same capsule shape because of, you know, I inverted it. Otherwise, if you want to, we can actually convert it into a left and right, but however this will confuse our script. I mean, it will be not that very human readable, so I don't want that to be happening. So I'm gonna actually decrease the radius a little bit, or you know what, let me keep it that way. This is gonna be, if this is the y-axis, this is gonna be up. So if I put this up, it will in fact, when I hit the W, it will in fact move backwards, and if I hit the S, it will move forward, because the up axis is in fact pointing backwards. So if I multiply all this by -1, it will in fact give me the desired effect. At least I hope so. So there you go. So W, move away, S, move backwards. And this is a good thing as well to see such a problem, because you could actually fall into one, and this is how you could think about, just to be careful about the direction of your axes. So this is how my model is looking at, so that's why you just make sure that that when you say move forward, move backwards, and so on and so forth, just check out where your axes are pointing, and everything will be just fine. And so that's why as well, when you are modeling in Maya, make sure that you are orienting your characters as well towards a certain axes. So all of you are in the teams, for instance, are agreeing, let's say the z-axis is going to be the forward, or the x-axis is going to be the forward. So make sure that you agree, all of you, about if you are in team, what exactly the forward, so you will not have any problems in scripting and programming later. Alright, so let's move ahead into the boat again, and let's try to make it as well move sideways, but instead of translate, right now we need to rotate. So I'm gonna just should delete that, and I'm gonna go here and say rotate, and right there you need a vector of your rotation. So we need to give it the x, y, and z of my rotation. And basically, since we are rotating around, well, right now it's going to be inverted a little bit, because our boat is, we're going to rotate right now around the z-axis, because the z-axis is pointing up. In case that you have your character is pointing forward to the z-axis like this, then basically you're going to rotate around the y-axis. So be careful. I'm rotating here, again, I'm rotating here around the z-axis because my z-axis is pointing up right now. And again, so that's why you're going to have to be careful when you are programming. So I'm going to have here a new vector 3. And for the x-axis, I'm not going to rotate. For the y-axis, I'm not going to rotate. But for the z-axis, however, I'm going to rotate. So I'm going to put here input axis dot get axis actually. And here I'm going to have horizontal. And multiply that by the sailing speed. and multiply that by the time dot delta time, and let's see how and in fact I have to close the bracket as well, and let's see how this will look like. So I move, I rotate, and I move. So there we go, and I can move ahead, and it will come back to me at a certain point in time. So okay, it works. All right, it works. So now we need to make it sure that the camera will follow. So how can we do that? Now, if you go here in the game objects, I think, or the assets, sorry, and you go to import package, and I'm gonna import scripts, which should be here. Now in the scripts, there are some interesting additional scripts are getting added for you. Now, in fact, let me see here. I think if I uncheck this, because I don't need any of those, I need just only the camera script. And in fact, I'm gonna need only smooth follow. But however, I'm not sure about the dependencies. But let me see here what's gonna happen if I uncheck the ones which I don't need, and I just check out which I need. And now if you go to standard assets, if you go to scripts, camera scripts, smooth follow, and I'm gonna grab my camera, and I will drag to it smooth follow, and it will ask me for the target whom I would like to follow, and I will say please follow the boat. Now if I hit play right now I'm following the boat. If I move backwards, forwards, so it looks just fine, I think. All right, so let's get started here. Now, since we have the boat is just fine and we got our movement ready, right now we need to script out some interesting stuff here. So for instance, I would love to put some finish line here, and I would love to just for the testing purposes, I'm gonna just put here a couple checkpoints, and I will leave just finish line right there. Okay, so real quick here, I'm gonna add a game object. I'm gonna add a cube, in fact, and here's our cube, and let me move him upwards. So I think they are all the same line here. And I'm going to scale that cube a little bit. So. And I will keep that cube a little bit submerged here. Scale it up a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to call this a checkpoint. And I'm gonna add here another script, and in fact I'm gonna call this, because I'm a little bit hang on a second, checkpoint, and in fact checkpoint scripts, because God knows what you would like to add later. So I need to add it right there. C# script. Checking in. So this is for the checking in. Now, what we need to do is, once the boat goes through this cube or through this checkpoint, it will just simply add a score to me. Now, it's a good time to give a player some parameters, which is waiting for it. Now if I go, let me see here, not this, I'm waiting for, here's the player actually. So if this is the player, now since we are creating a new C# a complete bare C# class, I don't need this. And I don't need this either. I need just only system. And system.collections, and I could even use system.collections.generic if you would like to have it, but anyway, I wouldn't even need those for now. And I don't need this as well. It's a pure C# script right now. In fact, you could write the whole logic in separately in a solution, and a Visual Studio solution or a monoscript solution, whatever, and then take the DLL file and just simply add it to the reference here, like you add anything to a reference. So you can edit references, and then you can browse for it, you know, in your hard drive, and just simply grab the DLL and you are good to go. So, but here, just for the simplicity of it, I'm just working here with MonoDevelop, and so that's why I just decided to, you know, just take it easy and go ahead and create the classes right there. However, I advise you just to create it as a simple class library. Actually, string name and name get and set. Public int score get and set, and a public player constructor, which will just set the names for now. Oh man, hang on a sec. Set the player for now as this dot name equals to empty, something really empty. Somehow. Okay, and this dot score equals to 0 for now, and another constructor just in case I need it, player, and I'm gonna call this string name and score, and this dot name equals to name. I feel I forgot something here. No, because the IntelliSense is acting funny. Okay, this dot score equals to score. All right, the IntelliSense. Okay, everything just looks fine. You have to create a default constructor in case if you would like to construct your object using this new object initialization syntax, but I'll leave it right there. And okay, I will leave the player class right there. And I will create another class which is called Game Manager, which manages everything, but this is going to be later. And right here on chicken in, actually, it's a good time, in fact, to do that. I'm going to go here in the player, or in the, actually in Unity. Let me keep it everything in Unity for now. And here I'm going to call this Game Manager, which is the one which manages the whole thing. And in fact, I can leave it as this, and it could be not even in the, I could actually separate it because it's not the business logic anymore. I'm gonna create a new game manager, or game management. I'll move it right there. And I'll create a, you know, just double click here, and I will grab the game management, and I will have here a public static player. And as you can see here, I can go ahead and type player because there are no, I mean, the concept of namespace is a little bit loose here when it comes to scripting in Unity. So all of them apparently are sharing the same namespace. And I'm gonna leave everything here for now. And actually, I have to give him a player, so it's going to be Sailor. And here I'm going to have a Sailor equals to new player with a name. Well, let it be, well, you know what, let it be like this. I'm going to have here, Jack. Whatever. Oh, actually, there you go. And his boat is gonna be, the Black Pearl, I think. So I'm gonna leave this right here, and whenever the script actually starts, and you will see why I put it here on start, because on start is being called whenever the game just starts. So whenever the game just starts, all these scripts has been, it just starts loading in the memory. So whenever the script appears or the script starts activating, or whenever a game object is created and it contains inside it that script, when the game starts, when the game object created, the onStart event will be called. And I'm going here into my Unity back, and let's see here. What happens is, if this boat goes inside this guy, it will just activate an event. Now this, we are waiting for a collision detection. Now the problem with this is that one of those two objects has to be a rigid body. Now in order for this to happen, I'm gonna need to apply a rigid body on one of those guys in order to have this working. And in order to do that, I can just simply select the object and I just say components, physics, and rigid body. And now my object, this object has a rigid body. However, if I start this, it will just, you know, fall down through, and this is because it actually actually takes the laws of physics and everything into it. Now, if you would like to avoid that, you can just simply check is kinematic, and if you play this, it will just simply stay right there. And of course, you can pass right through it. Okay. Now, what is left for us is to check if we actually have collided with this guy. So I will grab the chicken in, and I will just simply drag it on the checkpoint. And as you can see here, I just dragged it in the scene instead of here, which is another way of doing it. However, we need to make this much more optimized because we're going to have a little bit more, we're going to have a bunch of checkpoints, which I'm going to show you how to resolve that later. But we're going to see how to resolve it in a second here, right after we add the script here. So according to Unity's documentation, you need to handle void on trigger enter. You have void on trigger exit as well. However, we're going to need on trigger enter, and it takes as a parameter collider, and right here we can write our script. For debugging purposes, I'm going to just simply write debug.log, and right here I can write my message. So I'm just going to write here actually, I forgot how to speak pirate. However, crash. And let's hope it will work. Now I go over here and I go over the console because the debug.log will show me the messages right here in at the console. So I'm just going to play this, and if we go through it, nothing happens. And this is for a good reason, I think, because I forgot to say this is a trigger. You have to say to the collider that this is a trigger in order for it to register the event. So let me play again, and oh, in fact, I am mistaken. Actually, I should apply the chicken in to our boat here. So let me just push this right there, and let me play this. And nothing happens. Probably I have a typo somewhere. Let me see here. What is that engine? Wow, let me see. Well, how about this? Let me remove this. Put actually the rigid body right above the other guy, the collider itself. So let me, oh, I forgot actually to put is set kinematic. However, you could actually have fun with this, but let me put this on kinematic. So we will not sync in, and if we play this, actually we got the ouch or the crash. There we go. So we have the crash. Now, since we can't crash, since we already collided with the box here, right now we need to translate this into something meaningful. So for instance, now my game manager is already holding a new object of a sailor. So I could introduce an empty game object. I could, there's no here, nope. I'm gonna go here, empty game object. And that empty game object could be anywhere. Just put him whatever you think, put it wherever you think appropriate for you. And I'm gonna call this game object as game manager. And the game manager, I'm just gonna drag it over it. So the script of the game manager is gonna be attached to it here. And if you look carefully as well, there are no static variables is being shown here because again it's a static variable. So if I play this, nothing will happen for now. But if I go over here into the chicken in, and I will grab right here, I'm gonna grab, instead of logging this, I'm gonna say game manager dot sailor dot score plus equals 10. And here I'm just gonna say log sailor, actually game manager game was there, game manager dot sailor dot score dot to string. There we go. And let's go ahead and play this. And if we show the console, now we got 10, which is good. Now the problem is we get incrementing every time we collide with this thing, which is something is pretty bad, I have to say. So what we need to do here is we could just simply destroy it after it's being created. So I'm gonna go over here, let me clear this, and I'm gonna go over right there, and I'm gonna just simply say destroy, I think destroy or destroy object. Well, okay, let it be destroy. And destroy, I'm gonna say this dot game object. And whenever we play, it's just gonna go away. Now we cannot collide with it again. So this is actually good. Now, since we have this mechanism is made and we have tested it and we have proved that it's working, now, and of course you can simply add to it later if you want to. However, I would love to have multiple of those. And in case if I wanted to change anything, I would love to apply the changes to such a checkpoint of that type. Now, a checkpoint shouldn't be visible all the time. It could be, so you could actually check out the mesh renderer. So the mesh renderer is not there anymore. And I could actually go ahead and play this. And as you can see here, I got 10 as well. So you could put the very nice 3D models on the sides, like 2 stick bars right there standing, you know, marking that this is in fact a checkpoint. And you can just simply uncheck that renderer and you can just go ahead through it. So you can leave that renderer part just for you to see when you are debugging. And once you are done, you just simply uncheck it. Now, since I'm debugging and I'm testing my game right now, what I'm gonna do here is just gonna leave that that box collider, or sorry, that cube renderer thing, and I'm gonna create a prefab. So create, right-click, create a folder, not under the terrains actually. It's gonna be a quite new, fresh folder, and I'm gonna call this prefabs. And the prefab here, I'm gonna grab my folder here. I'm going to create a new folder, actually create new prefab, and I'm going to call this checkpoint. And I'm going to grab this whole thing, including the script. So I'm going to grab this whole game object and drag it over the checkpoint. Now, as you can see here, the prefab is not gray anymore, it's blue, which means that it's filled with something. That's actually, it has something in it. So what I could do here, and this one is already prefab, I could just simply drag over here one, and I'll get exactly the same thing. And in order to test this, I could just simply go ahead and play this. So this is 10, this is 20. Actually, the 10 which you see here, let me clear this and clear on play. So 10 and 20. Okay, so it works. Now, of course, you can put several ones over there, you know, all over the map, and then you can make the player go through agony and blood and everything just to get to that checkpoint, so he or she can pass the level. Another way of doing it is that you can simply just press Ctrl D, and you'll get yourself a duplicate. So Ctrl D, and so on and so forth, and the final point right there. Okay. Now I could actually put the final point here in a little bit interesting way. In order to make it a little bit different, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to introduce a cloth. It's like a finishing point. So I'm going to add a component, I think, or game object, other, and you have somewhere, actually, because away from the screen, away from the recording screen, you have a cloth right under the plane. So create other, so game object, create other, cloth, and you get yourself a cloth right here. Now a cloth, as you can see here, is just a simple plane which needs to be held somehow, of course. Now the problem with this cloth is that you cannot see it from both sides because of the culling feature, of course. Now we need to solve that problem. Now, how can we solve that? Minus 90. I would actually, in fact, let me show you a couple of things about the cloth first before we get started here, before I start manipulating here, so you can understand the potentials of what you could do with a cloth other than just making it as a simple flag. You can make anything out of a cloth. It could be a piece of paper, it could be actually technically anything. As long as you, a piece of rubber, you know, as long as you specify what exactly you would like to make of it, you can just simply start manipulating these parameters which you see here on the side in the inspector, and you can get a lot of interesting stuff going on. So I'm going to go here in the game object, create other, and I'm going to go create a cube, and here I'm going to hold that cloth like so. And it has to be intersecting, because this is how I'm going to hold the cloth, because the cloth is relying on collision detection to see where it's actually being held. And I'm going to hit Ctrl D, and I'm just going to push one right here. Okay. And now I'm going to go over into the cloth, and you have attached colliders, and I have in fact 2 of them. So I'm going to grab in the size, I'm going to put 2. And now I have 2 elements to add. And it needs colliders only. It doesn't need actually the cube. So I could in fact get a game object, attach to it a box collider or a sphere collider, whatever, and just you are good to go without any meshes or whatsoever. However, I'm going to keep those cubes right now just for debugging purposes. So this is the first cube. So I'm going to just simply grab it right here, put it inside the collider. And I'm going to grab the second cube over here and just simply drag it over there. So if I play this game, what happens is you can see I got myself a cloth, which is kind of interesting. And in fact, I could just get it a little bit more down right here. So it collides more, it interacts more with the boat. So let me play this. So you can have fun with this. However, as you can see here, you cannot see anything. Right? Now we would like to fix that. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to introduce a new shader. Like this. So let me disable this for now. And I'm going to go ahead, create a new folder. And I'm going to call this shaders. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new shader. And I'm going to call this dual-sided mesh. Now a shader is a program that gets compiled on your GPU, just to let you know. and it describes how your material is going to look like. So for instance, this is a simple diffuse shader. And in order to disable the culling feature, I can just simply type here, cull off. And this is it. And I'm just going to close this. And I am going to my Unity and wait for it to compile. And right here, I think in the materials section, in the I could just simply drag over, or let me in fact let me add a new material then, and I'm gonna call this cloth mat, which is cloth material. Some people like to call this like mat_cloth. You could make it that way. It's, you know, it's quite widely used, and I could just simply drag that material over it. And right now I have a custom / dual-sided mesh, or dual-sided shader mesh. And right here I'm going to grab my cloth over here, and I'm going to grab the material, replace it with a default material, and right now I can see my mesh from both sides. Okay, so if I play this, if I let me rotate here real quick. And if I go behind, so it will work just fine. However, most people reported that this trick actually makes some sort of how can I say this, makes some sort of rendering artifacts. But anyway, for now it just does the job fine. Now let us discuss a couple of features here which we can play with cloths. Now I will just put the game view right here. I'm gonna put I just made the split view here just for us to see what's happening if I'm starting to enable some certain features in the cloth like this. So right here I can start adding some external forces. So this is the z-axis, or actually this is the y-axis. So I'm going to introduce an external force like so. Actually this is interesting. Why? Okay, then let me put a 0. I'm just going to put the z-axis right there. As if actually the wind is blowing into it, right? And I could put some randomness into it. So it just simulates this, a little bit of burst of air, and then a little bit less, and then just a little bit more. So you get more or less some sort of a nicer interaction. And in fact, if I grab this, you could start seeing some interesting stuff going on. You can actually stretch this out. Now, since I have, let me see here, do I have the tearing factor on? There is a 0 tearing factor. So basically, this is impossible to bend or impossible to tear off. So see, just no matter how you get it as long as you can, it will never tear. Okay, so what you could do here is just simply introduce the tearing factor, let's say 0.3, and actually I destroyed everything. So let me actually do it right here, 0.3, and let me go here, and in fact it's too much, 0.1. Actually the cloth is too heavy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scale this up a little bit, just to hold it, like so. And scale this up a little bit as well, just to hold it. So right now it will be much more difficult to be torn apart. And let me play this. So right now we have, how much do we have here? 0.1. So we're supposed to have a little bit more resistance, I think. Actually not, it's quite easily torn apart. For a very interesting, why so? 0.2. Well, I'll leave it that way for now. Density, I'm going to make it a little bit more dense. It will respond to gravity. A little bit of bending stiffness. dampening or damping a little bit, thickness a little bit higher. So let's see what's gonna happen. So let's see. Oh well, it's easy to torn. It's very easy to torn apart. Oh man. We need probably to minimize. Actually, probably I need to increase this tearing factor. Could be. Let's see. 0. What's gonna happen with 0? 0 is 0 is impossible to tear. Maybe 0.01 then. Okay, let it be 0.8. Actually, I'm gonna grab this. Oh, there is no response for the 1. What is the limit here? To 0 disabled to 1000. Probably I'm gonna make oh, there we go. Now it's a little bit more interesting. So oh, apparently because I actually stretched it, so that's why it's already stretched. But anyway, I'm just gonna leave it that way for now. But hey, oops, let me play this on pause. So there we go, we have a cloth tearing apart. And I could actually take this whole thing and push it way to the back. Right here. So if you would like to win, you pass through this point. And let it be actually a cloth, so whenever you pass through the end, it just simply like tears apart and you won and all these stuff. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna grab one of those checkpoints. So I'm gonna just simply drag one more new checkpoint. I'm gonna put it right here. And it will in fact give you this 10 points, these 10 points. And I could just simply detach or just simply check out my mesh renderer and you could get the same effect. So if we go ahead and select the boat here, I could increase the speed for a second, let's say 100, so we can go over it quite quickly. Remember, do not make it so fast that sometimes you could go ahead through the colliders without you being detected, so be careful. And there we go. Actually, we should make it a little bit more down so we can have this nice tearing off effect. Now you can make flags, you can make all of sort of things, interesting things. However, I advise you not to put too many cloths because remember, this is being simulated on your PC and you are using NVIDIA physics. So in case you are not, well, that's pretty lame tearing off. Probably I'm gonna have to make it a little bit thinner so it looks a little bit better. However, what I want to say is be careful not to introduce too much cloth because it could make your computer much slower, so you don't want that to happen to you. So anyway, so we got this. Now here's one more trick I would like to show you before I end up with this lesson, is that I could create one more script, or actually I'm gonna create I'm going to add one more component here. I'm going to call this a actually game object. No, you know what? Let me put here an empty game object. I will add to it a box collider. So physics, I think, and box collider. So in this box collider, I'm going to increase its size a little bit, like so, and increase it in terms of y-axis, like so. and I'm going to just put it right where it's impossible for the player to miss if he actually, or if he or she passes through this end or finishing line. Okay, now right here I'm going to attach one more. This is going to be level transit. You could in fact edit the last checkpoint, which is adds to your point, or you could just simply put the level transit somewhere afterwards, like so. And right here I'm gonna add one more game management, I think, script. I'm gonna call here, or actually this is gonna be checkpoint scripts, and I'm gonna put here final checkpoint, and I'm gonna grab this level transit, put at the final checkpoint, make the collider as trigger, and right here on void on trigger enter collider. I could just simply say here application dot load level, and right here you have to specify the level either by the index or by name. So here I could, for example, specify level 2. Okay, now let me save this. If I go over here into my scenes, I'm going to control D this, so I have level 2, and if I double click it, let me save this one before I go. And right now I'm inside level 2. And in order to make some differences here, I'm going to just edit into the render settings. And instead of, I'm going to just make it a night sky, or let it be actually sky box. And let it be like starry night. So we have some sort of, probably it's difficult to see through this recording, but let me introduce some moon here. So sky, moonshine. Let's see, do we have some moon here? Oh, there we go, you have the moon. So we have, and of course we have such intense lighting like the sun, but hey, and I'm gonna replace this water with another water, not the terrain, the standard assets, water basic, nighttime water. I'm gonna increase its size a little bit, move it inwards so we can hide the whole terrain. In fact, more. And because of the Z fighting, we are having this flickering, so we're gonna just simply move it up just a bit. And where are my stuff? Oh, there we are. There they are. And well, for some certain reason I cannot find my other level. So let me see here, level 1, level 2. Well, even though I duplicated everything, it should have been a duplicate, but hey. But anyway, I mean, this is just a demo. So for instance, if I go here at level 1, before you do that, you're gonna have to go to the File, Build Settings, and make sure you, in fact, add level 1, level 2, and this is their index. So if you would like to load, you load the first level, then the second level, and so on and so forth, or you can load them by name. So I prefer to load them by name. It's much easier to manage. And if I play this, so if I go through 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're right now at level 2. So, and you can as well get the same scoring thing. So 1 and so on and so forth. Oh, in fact, it's not applied yet here. But anyway, you get the idea how to move from one level to another. So right now you are, you finish this level and you go ahead and right now you go through the second level. So this is really a very, very basic introductory to how to organize your scripts and organize your scenes. So when you are making your own projects, when it starts growing bigger, it's much easier to manage. And as you can see here, I kept everything into a player object. Now, of course, if you have enemies, if you have other if you have turrets shooting at you, if you are having a racing with other AI players or something like that, right now your classes are going to start growing a little bit. So please take care of these classes, organize your game as much as possible in terms of coding, so it makes it a lot easier for you to extend it. All right, thanks a lot for your attention, and see you in the next lessons.